Who doesn't love a little bit of spying? I have two IP cameras from Imilab, one for outdoors, one for indoors, so let's pick one and get started. Let's start with outdoor. Hey guys, it's been some time since I covered an IP camera. I've run through several of those on my YouTube channel and I'm gonna link a random one in here if you want to have an alternative to what I'm going to present today. Today we're gonna talk about Imilab and the IP cameras, because there's a couple of interesting things that I would like to point out. So if you're into IP cameras and you would like to improve your home security, you're in the right place. But first, let's start with a fun story. As you probably know from update on the channel, I've moved houses. I live in a rented apartment now, and what joy it has been, especially when it comes to automation, because everything is just complicated. And testing this IP camera was complicated too, because I couldn't really attach it anywhere. After all, it's not my building. So I decided to trap it in my window, pointed towards the entry to my apartment building, and over the course couple of days to see what I'm gonna get. And what I did get was an email from my estate agent that someone complained about it. And it would be fine, except there are already 3 CCTV cameras pointing in that exit, so I just wonder at this point what difference does it make, especially that it's just an equivalent of me looking through the window. So what I do have in my hands is obviously outdoor camera, which if you have the proper permissions, you can actually stick somewhere sensible and start enjoying it. This is a Wi-Fi camera, so it doesn't work with anything else other than 2.4 GHz network, one of the most popular bands due to its range. It has 2 antennas, so it should, in theory, have a better range, as a floodlight, night vision, infrared night vision, and 2-way audio, which means you're going to have a speaker and a microphone in it. Overall, it looks sturdy and it has IP66 rating, and at the bottom you're gonna find an access hash to your SD card, which can carry the capacity up to 256 gigs. That should be plenty for a couple of days. But if obviously that's not enough, there are some cloud options that you can consider. Starting off with 3 months free plan for a 7-day backup that you can try out before you commit to a purchase. This camera, the EC3 Lite, will set you back around $65, so it's a reasonable price to pay, especially that it comes with a resolution bump and it operates at 2K resolution. At this point you probably know everything there is in terms of hardware, so let's take a look at Imilab Home app and see what we can actually do and whether it's good for your use cases. Once I've downloaded Imilab Home, the pairing process was very simple. I clicked on the camera and within seconds I got it connected to my local network, and then all I had to do is just go into the app. The app itself is pretty standard. It lets you access the camera feed, the 2-way audio communication, and mess about with different settings to access AI detection. So we're going to talk about it in detail. But I would like to split this app overview into 2 sections. First, I'm going to talk about the things I did like about the app itself. First, it's the stream preview, which means I can actually start a stream from the camera without accessing the entire interface, which can come handy, especially if you have multiple cameras, so that's a good thing. The second thing that I really liked was the access to timeline, and I know the timeline isn't really anything new. Many different cameras had this nice timeline in which you can scroll left and right to access different moments on the timeline, but it works really well, especially that different AI detection features are coded in different colors, and you can quickly disable or enable selected colors on the timeline. And I found this to be really comfortable to access different events on my timeline, especially if you're looking for something specific. Another thing that really deserves a mention is the fact that all the videos and the timeline loads up really quickly. I did have a A1 class card inside to speed things up, but yeah, I had a really pleasant time scrolling through that and accessing the feed from the past without much of a delay, which is not always an issue. So yeah, well done in that matter. However, there are some things that I didn't like, and we're gonna start with, well, the obvious one, translations. If you go to the detection screen, you'll notice that those options are labeled as open and closed rather than enabled and disabled, and there are a couple of translation quirks here and there. Overall, the app didn't crash on me and nothing really bad happened, but I wish they spent a little bit more time translating that properly so English-speaking users knew exactly what they're doing inside. But don't worry, you'll figure out. One of the most annoying things for me was the fact that apart from timeline, I could jump to a list of events. However, no matter how long I would wait in that screen, those events would not populate with thumbnails. They would have a default thumbnail for every event, making it a little bit useless to browse. I'm pretty sure this is going to affect only your videos stored on SD card, because once you jump into Home Surveillance tab, you can actually see the thumbnails, and well, when you click on them, it takes you to the picture, it doesn't take you to the video on the timeline. I have a suspicion that this doesn't work this way when you have a paid plan, and I will direct you directly to the event in the cloud. The same thing applies to the push notifications. A push notification on your phone will tell you the trigger type, the time, and which camera triggered it, but there will be no thumbnail. That's going to be just an icon for your app. I wish they'd taken the opportunity to generate the thumbnail and add it to the notification. I've submitted that as my feedback to them. The last two things might be actual deal-breaking for you, depending especially where you are. Let's start with no support for real-time streaming protocol. So there isn't any clear option to export that feed and connect it with any external recordings, so you're kind of locked into either SD cards or cloud ecosystem for this camera. I don't know if this is planned in the future to be added or not, but as for now, it's not really an option. The second is the skills. There is an Imilab skill which you can enable for example, for Alexa. However, that skill is not present in UK. In fact, I only found a handful of countries that allowed to use that skill, but my region wasn't one of them, so I was not able to verify whether it works properly and whether there's a delay. But for what it's worth, I found that loading the stream from the camera on local network is almost instant. It literally takes like a second. And doing the same, obviously remotely, will depend on where you are and what is the connection speed at your home and the connection speed you're using. But I found the stream to be present within a couple of seconds, which is also good. I mentioned this IP camera comes with 2K resolution, which is probably the minimum resolution you want to use for the outdoor cameras, because they usually cover up a wider area and every pixel counts. So for the most part, I found the image from this camera to be really pleasant. Both the stream quality and the recording quality looks really good. There is not much of a compression of artifacts, even when I was pointing stuff at the grass and moving trees. And the camera handled harsh shadow really well, even without the wide dynamic range enabled, so kudos for that. You will be able to see what's lurking in the shadows even during direct sunlight. When the feed is zoomed in, this is where the artifacts come out of the woodwork, and you can actually see a little bit of compression going on and the feed losing some details. But like I said, this is 2K camera, so this is to be expected, but the ability to easily zoom in onto a feed is definitely appreciated. As I mentioned, this IP camera comes with two-way audio, and there's a speaker quite loud at the bottom of the camera. I found out how loud it is because you cannot really turn it down during the setup, and this camera is going to be screaming at you during the entire process, which was slightly discomforting, especially that I was setting this camera late at night. I probably woke up some neighbors. But that speaker is definitely loud enough to have a conversation with someone miles away outside, and yeah, you will be using it as a siren too. So let's play a recording from this camera so it would give you an idea how it would sound like. And this is a sample to let you know what the microphone quality is like and how another person will be coming across when talking to you. I'm also trying to record things without a feedback loop. Bloody hell, this thing is loud. And while, despite me looking, I was not able to find the loudness options in the options of the app, what I found was the ability to set different prompts for the camera. So you can either select AI-generated prompts for the camera from the list, or record your own. So if you want to scare an intruder in a very specific way, you can. Or you can also use this to greet guests, so yeah, that's down to you. Nighttime performance is excellent. I have a couple of patio lights which aren't very bright, but that is enough for the camera to illuminate an entire area around it. I didn't even have to switch to the color vision, which it supports because it has built-in LED lights. Those obviously, when enabled, will turn your immediate area into a color feed, and they are bright enough to illuminate quite a bit. However, with the patio lights, I had absolutely no reason for turning these on, and I would still be able to see everything around the field of view of the camera, so it gets extra points for the nighttime performance from me. And speaking of recording things, let's examine what's on the SD card. Now, it's nice that the camera feed actually records them as an MP4 file, so you can simply just grab them, drop them on your computer, and you have a backup of everything. Those files are recorded in a 2K resolution at 15 frames per second. Now, but there is one problem, because the naming convention doesn't really work well, because they are randomly named in an orderly fashion, so you won't be able to use the names of the files to find what you need. For that, you probably will have to go through the app and export the clips you're interested in. In terms of how much storage you would take, well, each file is approximately between 20 and 25 minutes of the video, which weighs about 256 megs in terms of size, so the average card of 32 gigs would give you approximately 2 days of recordings. I know a lot of companies right now advertise AI detection and how good it is and stuff like that. And this is no different. It has AI detection and it allows you to detect different events. But there is a couple of actually interesting functions I would like to talk. First of all, the motion detection is pretty good. Despite me pointing at some trees and some grass, I was not getting many false positives, which is nice. Especially at night. The camera was pretty good at filtering just random events like flying in front of it and keeping me the interesting ones like, I don't know, tracing hedgehogs or some birds that decided to land on my grass during the night. It works as well during the day, so I was clearly able to pick out some movement, including human detection, which works almost flawlessly. Obviously, I can't really verify whether I've missed any humans or not, but judging by the schedule of people going out to work and leaving back, I'm pretty confident that this camera performs quite well. Each motion detection type can be tailored, so apart from having custom color labels, you'll be able to set the schedules for them and define what's gonna happen when that alarm or that trigger becomes positive. You can issue a notification, you can start a siren, but one of the options I didn't see was to disconnect the siren from the audio, so you'll have to deal with the fact that you cannot really take over the LED light, so you cannot manually turn it on, and it's kind of coupled with audio, so once the camera is triggered, you'll have to play the sound as well as flash the LEDs at whoever's in front of it. Well, I have activity zone before on the cameras like this, so you can define a square to which the camera is going to respond with triggers to. One of the new features was to actually draw a line on a square and decide which direction the movement should happen. That provides you with really interesting scenarios in terms of capturing movement. So, for example, if I only wanted to monitor humans going outside of my building in the morning, I could just draw a line and make the trigger happen only when they're crossing the line in a specific direction. That also applies to a square, which you could just draw a square, put the animal inside, and as soon as the animal tries to leave that virtual border, you're gonna get a sound alarm. So that is actually quite exciting. So that's pretty much everything that you really need to know about the EC3 Lite camera from Imilab. Is it worth $65? For some of you probably will be, because you don't care about the RTSP, you don't care about extra ability to stream it to devices like Alexa or Google Home, but I know that can be a deal breaker for many of you, especially people that are into DIY automation and are looking forward to devices that allow you to integrate them with Home Assistant, Node-RED or whatever you're using to automate your home. But overall, I found the camera to be quite reliable in terms of event detection, so that's a good thing, and you're definitely getting a good nighttime performance. So those two key facts are the strong points of the Imilab EC3 Lite. So if you're interested, guys, in the video description you're going to find the link to this one. I'm going to link the indoor one as well if you want to take a risk before you see my review. It's going to come up next. That's probably a week's time. And well, that's pretty much all. So thanks so much for watching, guys. You know how YouTube works. I'm not going to school you on that. You know how to get notified and everything. But I have a couple of social media links listed on the screen and in my description. So if you want to follow me and see what am I doing next, well, there is no better way. As for now, big thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye! Home events, so what is it called? Home surveillance time.